national level up in Congress over IRS and their efforts to tax everything we pay out to our people.
Okay. So when that does come down the pipe.
It is coming down the
It
pipe
will
now.
be, because I do that when I do my taxes with my husband. I give him all the school loans, sure. And then I give him, along with that, all the stuff that I got this year. So, and there was a 1099, and I'm like, well, and I was thinking, okay, it'll go in there and nothing will happen. Yeah, thanks for stopping.
Thanks a lot, Marty. Talk to you later.
And then I figured they wouldn't have any, like, okay, yeah, she reported it, but it's nothing, we don't touch it because it's on trust land. But now you're telling me that they did.
If the tribe gets it, if the tribe, the land we own collectively as a tribe, gets the revenue based on like oil royalty, the tribe of course can't be taxed, but once they give it out to the individuals, then the IRS has taken a position that that's taxable. Like I said, some of us are saying we're all shareholders in this. It's the same way that I can't be taxed, I shouldn't be taxed as a shareholder of my government either. But the IRS is not in agreement with that yet.
The capital gains
Yes.
thing?
It's like a capital gain.
Anything over 600, you said?
Over 600 is you're lying for 1099. So.
One time they were
Oh, I
talking about
swear,
taxing
tax a dollar.
prize money in power, because I got a letter on it,
They're gonna try it
because
out.
somebody turned me in for making money winning.
You were making so much money.
They did.
You had to throw the game, right? You had to throw the game.
I don't remember they had those
Second
$1,000.
place.
Yeah.
And they said, how much tax they take? I said, see, Mark Fox says it.
Russell got second, yeah.
You got second, go you.
499, so I didn't have to pay taxes.
So, okay, that's a good thing. So if we win big money.
Oh, okay, I know it. I said, okay, if it's taxable, we could draw unemployment on it.
Oh, there you go, Jeffrey.
You know what I mean? Because if you're paying
Yeah.
rent and your wife calls, you can draw on it. That was my
Yeah,
thing.
it's like, okay, then how come you did exactly right? You, okay, get in there with the fight.
The term is called essential government services, and that's what the tribes are. They're hiring lobbyists and lawyers and working with congressmen to try to get pressure on IRS to change the policy or either pass a law that says these certain things are essential government services, and when we provide them to our people, you can't tax them. But it's going to be limited to education and social welfare and other items. Just giving you $800, $1,000 because you went to bingo and lost your money and now you can't pay your electric bill, that's going to be income. And so, you know, there are just a number of things that have to be considered.
Well, the kind of
I was working for social services. You know, we had a big squabble about cohabitation. Because I said, well, the husband or the man's got to get out until she gets her check and he come back in, so he can't count it.
Really?
But Mark, I have a question for you. Isn't that money that the oil revenue that the tribe gets, isn't that already taxed?
No,
It's not taxed.
no.
You do with the excise?
A lot of people don't understand that the tax is when it's trust land, We all either have allotments that we own individually, and some of us don't because our parents haven't deceased and haven't passed on yet. But the allotments, you have allotted land and you have the tribal trust land that's held collectively by the tribe. Our benefit, all of us, we all own a piece of that. Now, when, for example, let's say a Marathon Oil company comes on and they do a lease on there, they'll do, let's say, an 80-20 split royalty lease on that, right? So of every barrel sold for $100, $80 the company keeps, they give out $20 either to the individual or to the tribe. That's the royalty on that. The royalty portion is exempted from tax. There's no tax on that as far as the state and the tribe in our agreement. There's no tax on the $20. But on the $80, there is. Because the reason why is a case called Cotton Petroleum out of New Mexico. Cotton Petroleum, the Supreme Court of the United States basically said, when a company comes on and they get a leasehold interest on reservation land, even though it's on reservation, it's on trust land, and they create a production activity on that, their share that they're taking up, their 80% in that given scenario, is taxable. That's taxable by the state and by the counties. And so that's a bad case decision that basically says, no matter what, you get to tax that. That's why we were forced to be in a tax agreement with the state on that, because the Supreme Court of the United States gave them the authority to tax that portion, the producer's portion. Now, how do we get around that? Some of the sovereignty models is go in and drill it ourselves. Go in and drill it, produce it, and take it out ourselves. That's all non-taxable, because it's not a non-Indian entity doing it, it's ourselves. They can't tax that.
I said that
And that's what we've already done. We've acquired in partnership 12 wells already.
So
Wow.
that's what we're trying to do, is what we're gonna try to do as a tribe is get our own drilling and just move them all out and then.
Our own development
And then that
sovereignty
way
model.
no one can touch.
Sovereignty model that at least the state can't tax.
They get 8, then you get 100%.
Yeah.
But then the federal.
Then you work out your terms. No, federal doesn't tax either. They don't tax the income of it, either yours nor mine, in the first instance, as we were talking about earlier. Now, if you take your 10,000 a month royalty, you take your 10,000 a month royalty.
That's a lie, Wyatt.
And you,
That's a lie.
yeah, I seen the records. No. No, you're just showing them, and if you fly off to Vegas, you put your money down, and you put it on Arizona, they win, and then you make $9,000, well, that's all taxable, that's the way it is, IRS, right? But your 10,000 that you got off your trust income, there's a lot of case law in the early 1900s that says, it's federal land, it's held and titled in the United States for your benefit. We're not gonna turn around and tax that on top of it. We provide it for your benefit, and then income off of it is for you to live off of. We're not gonna turn around and tax you on top of that. So that law protects you at this point in time. Unless Congress changes that, that's the way it is.
Mark, does the mineral owners, do they have to pay taxes from
No.
their IAM
If it comes
accounts?
from trust, no.
Oh, okay.
They're fee land holders within a reservation. We got a few of them that went out of trust into fee, and they got oil on there. They're paying tax. They gotta pay tax on it. Now they put it back in the trust. Because the difference between trust and fee land is a patent and fee title means you have complete title to that. We don't own the land that we call our land. It's held in trust, it's held in title by the United States government for our trust benefit. United States government owns that land, but they own it, and whatever income is realized off of that, they provide it to you. That's that whole Cobal situation broke out, is because in their management of that, they lost hundreds of billions of dollars. Billions and billions and billions of dollars. And so Cobal came about as a reaction to saying, you mismanaged our money, we need to be paid. And that's what trust is. It's still held in title by the United States government.
How about Black Hills?
Black Hills belongs to Rick Ross. Black Hills belongs to Rick Ross. You should know that.
Mark, on the oil, now is the tribe taxing it too?
Yes.
Or are we picking it up through the state?
We both have the right to tax. Remember in that scenario I give you of a marathon race in the 80-20? That $80 is taxable by both us and them. If we didn't have an agreement and we were threatened to pull out of an agreement because it was a bad agreement, we shouldn't have got into by percentage splits, and we made it more equitable last year, where we're splitting it down the middle. But had we pulled out, we would have put a tax on, they would have put a tax on. The industry would have been either pulled out or been screaming bloody murder, because they would have been paying 22% instead of 11% on their tax, on that $80 on Marathon. So the oil companies threatened to say, if you guys don't figure this out, then we'll stop drilling. Because if we can't afford to be on your land if we got dual taxation. So the state comes together and the tribe comes together and say, let's just have one tax and let's figure out how to split it. The problem with the original agreement in 08 is we're splitting it to the point where we're getting 1/3 and they're getting 2/3. They got 200 million, we got 300 million. They got 300 million, we got 200 million. So what we did last year is we argued for 2 years. Lost 2 years ago, came back in last year, and we were able to finally, at the last minute of the legislature, get them to agree to split it right down the middle. Instead of 80-20 in their favor, we now get 50%, which means for us an extra $300 million over the next couple of years. Extra $300 million. Now, how does that benefit us? We are the only tribe in the United States that we are aware of, and I've been researching every reservation, that can currently tax a non-tribal well within our boundaries and get 50% of the tax. That same cotton petroleum case that gives the state ability to tax on trust says that we can tax, as a tribe, a fee well, like in partial North Dakota, that's on fee land, that's drilled by non-Indian land, we can't get any of that tax. That's the argument made. When we got into the agreement, not only do we split 50-50 the tribal lands, the trust lands, but we now get 50% of all the tax that come off of these non-tribal wells in the open areas of the reservation. So we're the only tribe right now getting 50% of revenue we wouldn't get under the law if we had separate taxation.
As long as they were in the boundaries.
So how much is that, Mark? How much is the revenue, for tax revenue, is the tribe getting?
The tax revenue, historically, just last month, and I can share this, and hopefully won't be fired, because I did my report yesterday. I did my report yesterday, and it was announced, and it's open in there. We just hit the $400 million mark for oil and gas tax, combined with motor fuels tax. Since '08 to last month, the total amount that the tribe has received is $400 million in tax.
Wow. Well, where is it? No.
I can't account for all of it, but I can tell you where some of it.
I have a question, because I don't get to go home, so I don't get to do too much, and I just hear things when I get the news.
Because you're in Vegas all the time.
See, you guys are all screwing me up with siblings. Siblings, excuse me, did all that. So, totally siblings did all that. The thing that I want to know, and kind of asking, because it just confuses the whole heck out of me, is how do we, at what point is all of this stuff gonna, and I don't hate to use these words, trickle down, for God's sake, because that's a Reagan word, but trickle down, because it seems to me that what blew me away was a yacht at the powwow grounds. And I was like, okay, explain to me, how come we have a yacht? And it sounds, and nobody really knows, because it seems like there's not I remember, at least I think I remember, where you could go and sit down at the councilmen's meetings. You could just sit in there when I was younger. I remember doing that. People say you can't do that anymore. I don't know. But are we, who's deciding on a damn yacht? And all this weird stuff? Because I didn't get to buy it.
Wasn't the yacht for riverboat gambling? I thought they were trying to push that.
Who's doing that?
Now under, they got the state compact change for gaming, to be able to have gaming on the river. That was done a year and a half ago,
That's why we
14
have a
months ago.
boat.
Now the boat came, but unfortunately for the tribe, because there are other entities like the Corps of Engineers, as well as the U.S. Coast Guard, that said, no, not until you pass certain regulations. We don't care what your state compact says. We have certain regulations you have to meet. So when they bought that boat, they were unable to use it other than taking out for free excursions, because we couldn't charge for it, couldn't have any gaming on it. That's year one. Boom. That's what happened. Now the plans are, I understand, and I may be wrong, is that year two now they'll acquire the actual river boat, and or whatever kind of boat, a vessel.
Oh.
They will get a gaming vessel, and it will have the machines on it, and it will go out, it'll make the income, it'll charge, it'll be part of tourism, blah, blah, blah. That's the plan. Now, let me just kind of talk, because I'm going to have to get going here, and Verdell, I know this is your meeting, and I just wanted to really come and listen, and I had a feeling, I thought I'm going to...
Well, it's actually the meeting for the people, you know, we wanted them to hear.
And I think it's important, some of you don't hear a lot of information, so I'll share what I know. And you know, like I said, hopefully I won't get in trouble. But bottom line is, you know, the tribe's going to be doing a very significant budget. We're at around $400 million this year, fiscal year budget. Why? Because of not just the taxation at about $250 million, and then we have some drilling fees and things amounting to about $260 million. But the tribe's also getting royalties. That royalty is growing and growing. Every well we get, the tribe's getting royalties on that as well, on wells drilled on land we all own together. So we're at about 350 to 400. It's growing budget. You know, this is an issue, whether it's the boat or whether it's
The ranch.
whether it's
The ranch or
helicopter or other things that people get
Helicopter, oh, I heard a helicopter.
Okay. Whatever the concerns people do have, here's the reality of the situation. It's going to really boil down to what our government prioritizes to spend its money. I argue with the state. I'm here every week down here at the Capitol arguing with them because, you know, we have needs up there that they're not helping us fund. The state has taken more money out of Fort Berthold than we have. And so my argument to them is you need to keep trying to fund us. Now they're saying, well, we changed our agreement and we're not gonna fund you. But bottom line is we have to start figuring ways to prioritize. That's what your government does on your behalf, is it sits every month and has a set budget and says, well, okay, today we're gonna spend, like yesterday, and this is public information now, yesterday passed a resolution, we're gonna put 100 million on a refinery of our own money this year, and we're gonna put 100 million next year on the refinery. There's 200 million commitment they made yesterday, $200 million. They made some other small investments, 10 million here, a million there. My point I'm trying to get to is it's important that we as a tribe have to start telling our people what we're spending money on. I understand that because you don't know. A lot of our people don't know. But at the same time, you need to get in there and try to voice your opinions about what you think the tribe should be spending its money on.
And how do we do
And
that, Mark?
prioritizing. We are, within 5 years, we'll be at $1 billion budget.
And how
Within
do we-
5 years, easily.
Yeah, that's what I
We will
mean.
have $1 billion budget because of tax and royalties. So what's important to you? Is it paying it all out, like I've heard some people say, per caps? Is it developing housing infrastructure? Is it addressing the medical needs? Our needs are billions of dollars, whether the people recognize it or not, whether the state or feds recognize that. We have a $6 to $8 billion needs in the next 5 years. We need $6 to $8 billion. The $1 billion itself is not gonna make all our 13,700 members rich. It's not gonna happen. So the bottom line is, where do we wanna focus the money? On a people's fund, investments, and how much are we gonna spend on operation? That's where all of us come in. We have to get our points across to them, make proposals to them and say, this is how we think you should spend money, and we definitely don't think you should spend money this way. You gotta let them know some way, somehow.
Yeah.
But see,
And
that's
what's
just it. I
important.
think what's happening is we are prevented from letting people know some way, somehow. It gets to the point where we just talk to each other when we meet each other, or we're on Facebook, or something, and it doesn't seem to go to the people it's supposed to go to. And that's where that, we can't sit in the tribal meetings, or we can't, it's almost like, don't
can.
don't come to me.
Unless they close it, then that can happen. You can sit in there, and you can stand up and speak up. Like yesterday, had you been in there, maybe you can't personally. But as enrolled members, go to those council meetings.
My God, if I
Sit
were-
there.
if I
And then when they
could,
say,
I
we're
would
gonna
be there
spend
every
100
day.
million on this, or 200 million on that, then raise your hand and stand up and say, I disagree. I think you should focus on this. And so, I mean, I'm just saying, that
Yeah.
I know I'm oversimplifying it, but that's what needs to happen with our
But
government.
somebody.
Because if you're not there, they're gonna spend it how they think you need
Exactly,
it.
but the whole thing is I think more often than not, they're trying to make it so that we're not there. And even when you go into your segments and you ask for things, and this happened personally with Christine's tragedy, where we actually tried to get help, to have people to get down here, because not everybody has enough money. A lot of our kids can't do that, so we're trying to get people to get here. And we had people over in her segment. Honest to God, it's a good thing I live in South Dakota, and it was too far for me to come up and kick that 6-foot tall man's ass. Because the way they treat their people in those segments is just sacrilege. They make you come in and they make you go like this, and they act like you're doing them a favor. It's like, well, here, what do you need? Can't you get your people to help? You are my goddamn people. I remember cheering that kid on. I remember helping him down in the village or North Dragswell. I remember as a kid watching half those kids on that village, and that man says that to my sister and to my dad, and it just floors me. And this happens every flipping day.
I hear you.
Every flipping day.
I hear you. I hear you. And you know what? All of us, I think, can sit here all day long. I could. I'll get off the clock and talk for hours about what the tribe does not do right. And I told the council that last month.
So how do we
In
fix
short
that?
closed session.
How can I fix
Exactly.
that?
That's the point I'm
I
trying to
wanna
make.
know, how can I go and fix that?
Is let's find solutions to. Let's identify problems.
Yep.
You shouldn't do this, and you shouldn't do that, and you should be doing this, but offer solutions.
Yes.
And put them down in paper.
Yes.
And
I'm
then
ready.
submit them and say, this is what we'd like to see. That way they have to pay attention to it, and they will, I hope.
I won't,
And so-
I don't know.
so
You have
that-
referendums that people walk over.
Okay, but bottom line is finding solutions, finding solutions.
Yes, I agree,
If- if-
I'm